my name's Jay Howie and welcome to the second part of this essential concept series about pentatonics. So this is a 10-part series where I'm doing a deep dive into pentatonics, what they are, how we use them, how we play them, and how to utilize them in different styles of music. If you haven't watched the first part, I recommend going back and watching it because it's just a bit of a primer about what we're about to talk about. So in the last part, we talked about what the pentatonic scale was, and we learned a couple of positions that we could play the pentatonic scale in to get us going. This time, I want to expand that knowledge a little bit by learning a thing called the cage system. And what the cage system is it's a system that allows us to play the pentatonic scale all the way up and down the neck. So once we get our grasp of this cage system, we're going to learn how that we can connect all these scale shapes to start moving from one end of the fretboard to the other. And then once we've done that, we're just going to see how we can use that for different keys so that we're not always playing in the same key. We want to be able to be versatile and play this scale in different keys. In the first part of this series, we learnt one position of the major pentatonic scale and one position of the minor. So today we're going to expand on that by learning something called the cage system. And what the cage system is basically scale shapes that are made up of chord shapes. So all the common chords that we know, like C, A, G, E, and D, sit within these scale shapes, and they help us to remember them and help us to move from one end of the fretboard all the way up to the other. So we're going to start with the major pentatonic scale, and we're going to have a look at the C form of the major pentatonic. So we'll just zoom in a little bit more to the fretboard and we'll start going over that. So the first form that we're going to look at is the C form of the major pentatonic using the cage system. So for this one, we're going to take our little finger and we're going to place it on the 5th fret of the A string, which is our D note. So it's our tonic or our root. Then we're going to take our first finger and play the 2nd fret on the 4th string. We're going to take our 3rd finger and play the 4th fret on the 4th string. Then we're going to use our first finger again. We're going to play the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Our 3rd finger is then going to play the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And then we're going to jump down to the B string, and it's going to change a little bit. We're going to use our 2nd finger to play the 3rd fret. We're going to use our pinky to play the 5th fret. And then we're going to jump back to using our first finger on the 2nd fret of our high E string. And then we use our pinky for the 5th fret up here on the high E. So all together we've got and if we want to extend that a little bit to use the top E string and another note on this 5th string, we can do that too. So to do that, from this 5th here where our pinky is, we just go down to the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and then on our top E string we go 5th fret with our pinky again and 2nd fret as well. So all together that is. And as you can see there, I'm able to fret a C-shaped chord to create a D. So now that we've looked at the C form of the major pentatonic scale, the next one we move to is the A form, and it'll be similar. You'll see a chord shape in there. So let's get closer to the fretboard. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the A form of the cage system, and we're going to do this one in the key of C, just so that we can keep ourselves in the same position of the neck. So for this one, because we're in the key of C, our root note is going to be this 3rd fret of the A string. Now we're going to fret that with our 2nd finger, and then then we're going to play the 5th fret with our little finger. Then we're going to jump down, and the next 2 strings we're going to go 2nd fret to the 5th fret. And then our bottom 2 strings we're going to go 3rd fret to 5th fret. So all together, that is. And again, we can extend that so that we can include this top E string here. And all we do for that is we just play the 3rd fret and the 5th fret. So that whole pattern, including the top string, is. And that's our A form of the cage system in the major pentatonic. So the next form that we're going to learn is the G form of the major pentatonic scale. So this one should look pretty familiar because this is the one that we actually learned in part 1 of this series. But we're going to go through it again anyway, so let's zoom back into the fretboard and check it out. So for the G form of the major pentatonic scale, using the cage system, we're going to be doing it in the key of A major. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pinky and we're going to fret the 5th fret on our top E string, which is our A note. Now we're going to jump down to our A string. We're going to play the 2nd fret with our 1st finger. Then we're going to play the 4th fret with our 3rd. We're going to do the same again on the 4th string. Then we're going to do the same again on our 3rd string. Now for our 2nd string, we're going to go 2nd fret with our 1st finger, and then we're going to go 5th fret with our little finger, and then we're going to do the same thing on our high E string. So all together, that is. So to extend that down so we can get another note out of this top E string, we're just going to play the 2nd fret on this 6th string here. So A is our tonic on the 5th fret, and we've got an extra note here on the 2nd fret as well. So you should be pretty familiar with that G shape as we learn it in part 1 as well. So from the G, we go to the E form. So let's dive back into the fretboard. So for the E form of the cage system, using the major pentatonic, we're going to do this in A major again. So what we're going to do is we're going to fret the 5th fret up here on our 6th string, but we're going to use our 2nd finger this time. And then we're going to use our pinky to play the 7th fret. Now we're going to jump down to our A string or our 5th string. We're going to play the 4th fret with our 1st finger. Then we're going to play our 7th fret with our little finger. We're going to do that again on the next string. And now we're going to go 4th fret on the 3rd string. And then we're going to play the 6th fret on the 3rd string. And then we're going to take our 2nd finger and we're going to play the 5th fret on our 2nd string. Then our 7th fret with our pinky. And then we'll do the same thing again on our 1st string. So all together we've got. And the last little shape that we're going to learn is the D form of the major pentatonic. So this is the last one, and then we're going to move on to the minor pentatonic cage system shapes. So let's get back to the fretboard. So for the D form of our cage system, we're going to stay in the key of A for our major pentatonic. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2nd finger and we're going to fret the 7th fret on the 4th string. Then we're going to use our pinky to fret the 9th fret. And now we're going to jump down to our 3rd string, and we're going to use our first finger on the 6th fret. Then we're going to take our pinky and play the 9th fret. Now when we jump down to the B string, we're going to have to do a slight shift up. So we're going to be using our first finger for the 7th fret of the B string, and our 4th finger for the 10th. And then on our 1st string, we're going to go 7th fret with our first finger, and then we're going to go 3rd finger on the 9th. So all together that sounds like this. Now if we want to extend that so that we can use the 5th and the 6th string, all we're going to do is 7th fret and then 9th fret on our top string, and the same on our 5th string. So with those included, it would sound like this. So now we've run through the cage system using the major pentatonic scale, it's time to learn the cage system for the minor pentatonic scale. But the thing is, we don't have to learn any new shapes. So the shapes that we use for the major pentatonic scale are the same shapes that we use for the minor pentatonic scale. The only difference is where we start the scale from. So our root note changes. So let's dive back into the fretboard, and we're going to go over the C form shape of the major pentatonic, and I'm going to show you how we use that same shape from the major pentatonic to make it a minor pentatonic. So if we're looking at the C form of the major pentatonic scale in the key of D like we did earlier, we had our little finger starting on the 5th fret of our 5th string, which is our D note, or our root or tonic. Then we dropped down to our 4th string and we played the 2nd fret with our first finger and the 4th fret with our 3rd. Then we do the same on our 3rd string, 2nd and 4th. And then we drop down to our 2nd string and we played the 3rd with our 2nd finger and the 5th fret with our little finger. And then we drop down to our 1st string and we play the 2nd fret with our first finger and the 5th fret with our little finger. So now if I wanted to play a D minor pentatonic, I would be using this exact same shape, but instead of playing the D note with my little finger, I would use my first finger. So from here, I have my first finger on the 5th fret, and then when I move my pinky, I move it up to the 8th fret, so 3 frets up, and then we do the exact same scale shape as the major pentatonic from there. So we drop down a string and our first finger plays this 5th fret, and then our 3rd plays the 7th. Then we drop down again to our 3rd string and we do the same again. And then we drop down to our 2nd string and our 2nd finger plays that 6th fret, little finger plays the 8th, and then we drop down to our 1st string and it's the 5th fret and the 8th fret. So side by side, these two scale patterns look exactly the same, and they are. The only difference is where our root note sits. So the little red dot is obviously in a different position, and the little red dot indicates our root note or our tonic. So if we start with our root using our little finger, we're going to be playing a major pentatonic. But if we slide up 3 frets and start from our first finger, then we're going to be playing a D minor pentatonic. And this can transfer to all of the shapes in the cage system. So from here, my suggestion would be to find a root note that you want to play in. And let's say that we want to play in the key of E minor. We start on this top open string for E minor. And the E minor pentatonic is the same as our G shape for our major pentatonic. So we have open top string, 3rd fret, open 5th string, 2nd fret, open 4th string, 2nd fret, open 3rd string, 2nd fret, open 2nd string, 3rd fret, open 1st string, 3rd fret. And then from there we can go to the E shape, so we'd slide up to the 5th fret. And we can work our way through the scale shapes all the way up the neck in an E minor pentatonic. So now that we've learned all of the positions in the cage system, we want to be able to connect them together to get from one end of the fretboard to the other. Now when I look at the pentatonic scale, it's 2 notes per string. So I look at them as inside notes and outside notes. The inside notes are the notes that are closest to the headstock. The outside notes are the notes that are closest to the bridge. So when we change positions, we go from one position to the next position. The outside notes of the first position that we're in then become the inside notes of the next position that we play. And another cool little thing that I wanted to show you was what's called the horizontal pentatonic scale. So that takes little pieces of each shape and slowly moves us from one end of the fretboard down to the other. So we're going to take another look at the fretboard, and I'm going to show you how we use this horizontal pentatonic shape to move from one end to the other. So the horizontal scale shape is designed for us to be able to go from one end of the neck all the way to the other. So we're going to do it in the key of G major. So what we're going to do to start is take our first finger and we're going to fret the G on our top E string, on our 6th string. Then we're going to fret the 5th fret with our 3rd finger. We're going to then slide that up 2 frets to the 7th fret. Then first finger is going to drop down to the 5th string and play the 5th fret. The 3rd finger is going to play the 7th fret. Then the first finger is going to drop down another string to the 4th and play the 5th fret again. And then 3rd finger on the 7th. And now we're going to slide that 3rd finger up 2 frets again, so that we're end up on the 9th fret. Now we drop down a string again, and we're going to play first finger on the 7th fret of our 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 9th, and now we're going to play the 8th fret of the 2nd string with our first finger, and then we're going to play the 10th fret with our 3rd finger. We're then going to slide that 3rd finger up another 2 frets to the 12th fret. And then we're going to play the 10th fret of our 1st string with our first finger. Then we're going to slide that 1st finger up 2 frets to the 12th fret. And then we're going to use our pinky to bring us back to G on the 15th fret of our 1st string. So all together, that is. So now that we've learned all these scale shapes up and down the neck, we want to be able to utilize them. And one of the most common approaches to pentatonic soloing is called key center soloing. So if we had a chord progression that went A minor to G to D and then back to A minor, our song is in the key of A minor. So that would mean that we would play the A minor pentatonic. So when our chord changes from A minor to G, we don't then change our pentatonic scale to a G major pentatonic to accommodate that G chord. We stay on the A minor pentatonic. And the same with the D chord when we go to the D. We don't change to a D major pentatonic to accommodate that D chord. We just play the A minor pentatonic throughout that whole chord progression. And this is the most common way to use minor pentatonic and major pentatonic scales. And it is extremely effective. So just before we finish off this lesson, I just wanted to give you guys an exercise to help you memorize these scale shapes. So we're just going to jump back onto the fretboard for one last time, And I'm just going to show you a quick little exercise that you can do and run through to get your head around what these scale shapes are and get them stuck in your head. So the exercise I wanted to show you to get the shapes under your fingers is quite a simple one, and it is just running through the scale shapes, but we're going to be doing them and connecting them all so that we move up the neck and then we move back down. So one way of doing that is to play each scale shape up and down before you move to the next one. So you would do something like, if we're in the key of E minor, because we're going to use the open strings. So on and so forth, and you just move up the fretboard until you get up to the 12th fret, and then you work your way back down. That's one way we can do it. The other way is that we go down with one shape, move up, come back up with the next shape, move up, come down with the next shape. So for example, we would be doing something like this. So on and so forth. So they're two good little exercises that get you used to playing the pentatonic scale. Thanks so much for joining me for part 2 of this series about pentatonics. Now, the information in this video is a lot to digest, so take your time with it, run through the exercises, learn the scale patterns, and then for part 3, we're going to start going through a couple of licks that we can use for pentatonics, some techniques such as bending, vibrato, slides, hammer-ons and pull-offs, and a couple of other little things that we're going to go through as well. So tune in for that one once you've got these scale shapes under your belt, and we'll keep on kicking on. Now, if you want to get your hands on the backing track that I used at the start of the video, there's a link down in the description for my Patreon page. You'll be able to find it there, along with the exercise that I provided, and it'll have the tab, all your scale shapes in scale diagrams and tab as well. So head over there if you're interested in that. And if you do like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, chuck me a like, and let me know what you think of this series. And if there's a series that you want me to do about a specific subject to do with guitar, let me know in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to have a look at it and hopefully get one going for you.